day one waking up in Germany after losing our home in LA. Me and my kids moved out of place, put our stuff in storage, or most of it in the trash, but some of it in the storage, and we don't have a home, y'all.
She used to be on one of hip-hop's biggest reality shows, grinding as an independent artist for years while raising her kids on her own. Now, she is out here telling the world she and her children got nowhere to go, and she is not the only one. By the time this video is over, you are going to hear from 5 women the rap game used up and left behind. Lil Kim. There is not a female rapper alive who did not feel Lil Kim's impact. From Brooklyn to the Billboard charts, Kim spent the 90s building a legacy that nobody could touch, putting out records like Crush on You and Not Tonight, while running with Biggie and Bad Boy back when that still meant everything. For a long time, she was the standard every other woman in rap got measured against, and most of them fell short. But the road from the top can take you somewhere ugly real fast, and Kim's story is proof of that. Long before the fame ever came, before the albums and the covers and the world tours, Kim already knew what it felt like to have nothing. When she was 8 years old, her and her mother ran away from an abusive home and spent their nights sleeping in the back of a car. Then, as a teenager, her own father put her out, and she had to couch surf and rely on whoever was willing to let her in. That kind of upbringing does not just go away once the money starts coming in. And for Kim, even with all the success she built, financial trouble kept finding its way back to her door. By the late 2000s, a perjury conviction in 2005 had put her in prison, and all the legal bills and label fights that followed hit her bank account hard. What looked like wealth started disappearing fast, and in 2018, she filed for bankruptcy, with assets around $2.57 million and debts closer to $4 million, including a $2 million mortgage, plus what she owed the IRS and the state of New Jersey. Her New Jersey mansion was at risk of being taken. HSBC went after the property in a foreclosure attempt back in 2010, and reports came out that she had to borrow money from Missy Elliott just to hold things together. She kept working through all of it, doing tours and features and TV, and by 2024, she had settled a 6-figure IRS tax debt that had been following her for years. She is not homeless today, and none of the confirmed reporting puts her anywhere close to that right now. But all those viral clickbait videos about her situation are not just coming out of thin air either. The woman who helped define what a female rapper could be spent a serious chunk of her adult life digging out of a financial hole that never fully went away, and that is a story worth knowing. Tiarra Whack. When Tiarra Whack dropped Whack World in 2018, the whole music world stopped what it was doing and paid attention. It was an 18-minute visual album, completely different from anything anyone was making at the time, and she did it with this Philly energy that felt totally her own. The critics loved her, she picked up Grammy nominations, and her fan base started growing. From the outside, it looked like she was on her way to something special. What nobody could see was how heavy things actually were for her underneath all of that. Back in 2019, Whack opened up in an interview about how she had been homeless for 3 months after moving back to Philadelphia. She was staying out of storage units and relying on people who cared enough to help, with no real place to call home, while the industry was still figuring out who she was. That chapter of her life happened right there alongside the early buzz, even though most people on the outside had no idea. And the pain she was carrying went way beyond just not having a place to sleep. In a conversation with music critic Anthony Fantano ahead of her second album, Worldwide Whack, she talked honestly about how the pressure of being a public figure had taken her somewhere really dark over those years between projects.
I became very stressed because I was being pulled every way, and all I wanted to do was have fun. So that drove me into depression. And for 6 years, everybody's asking me, Whack, what are you doing? When are you going to drop? And I'm like, guys, like, I'm still trying to figure this all out. It's so much. I didn't know at first, but I was crashing.
She went even further than that when Fantano kept listening and told him straight up that there were moments during those 6 years where she was not sure she even wanted to be here anymore.
I was in a dark place. Like, Anthony, I was literally ready to end it all. And I just so happened to be 27.
She survived all of that and came out the other side, giving credit to therapy, her family, and her faith for helping her get back to herself. Today, she has new music out and says she is in a better place, and when you hear her talk about it, you believe her. But it took a lot to get there, and most of the world had no clue any of it was happening. Dee Barnes. If you were watching hip-hop TV back in the early 90s, Dee Barnes is someone you already know. She hosted Pump It Up, the first hip-hop show ever to air on television, and she got that job at just 19 years old after going up against a whole list of other women who wanted it. She interviewed Queen Latifah, Will Smith, Heavy D, and basically everybody who mattered in hip-hop at that time. She was also part of the rap duo Body and Soul with her partner Rose Hutchinson, and her career was genuinely on the rise. Then, Dr. Dre attacked her, and everything changed. The assault happened at a record release party in West Hollywood in January of 1991, right in the middle of all the tension between Dre and Ice Cube after Cube left NWA. A clip from a Cube interview had been edited into Barnes's show in a way she had no control over, and Dre decided to take that out on her personally. She went on the Wendy Williams show years later and described exactly what he did to her.
And then Dre approached me out of nowhere, grabs me, doesn't say a word, grabs me by my hair, lifted me up off the ground, by my hair, slammed me up against the brick wall. Several times, boom, boom, boom. Supposedly, I didn't see, but he had a bodyguard with him, and he kept the crowd, from helping by gunpoint.
Dre got probation, community service, and a court fine of around $2,400, no jail time. Barnes, though, spent the years after that being slowly pushed out of every room she should have been welcome in. The director of Set It Off had been her cameraman on Pump It Up, so when that film came together, she was left out. She could not get hosting work on video channels either. The industry Dre was building had power over who got to work and who did not, and for Dee Barnes, that power was used against her for a long time. In March of 2019, she went public about being homeless and started a GoFundMe asking for $5,000 just to stop an eviction from happening. After Hip Hop DX covered it and Wendy Williams had her on the show, the campaign ended up raising close to $30,000. By 2023, she had housing again and had picked up her first consistent journalism job in years. She is not on the streets today, but the fact that a woman who helped put hip-hop on television ended up having to ask strangers online for money just to keep a roof over her head says everything about what this industry does to the people it hurts and then moves on from. Amina Buddfly. Most people know Amina Buddfly from Love and Hip Hop New York, where her whole situation with Peter Gunz played out in front of millions of people over multiple seasons. But she has also been a working artist this whole time, part of the R&B duo Black Buddfly, and an independent musician who kept putting out music even after the cameras stopped following her around. In June of 2025, Amina posted a TikTok that spread all over the internet fast, where she revealed that she and her two daughters had lost their home in Los Angeles. They threw out what they could not keep, put the rest in storage, and flew to Hamburg, Germany, to stay with her family while she figured out the next step.
Day one, waking up in Germany after losing our home in LA. Me and my kids moved out of place, put our stuff in storage, or most of it in the trash, but some of it in the storage, and we don't have a home, y'all. But guess what? Thank God for family, because we're in Germany with my family, and we're gonna be here till I figure it out, because I will, as I always do. But the last couple of years have been so rough. Working my butt off, not making enough money, end up losing my place.
When she sat down for an interview later, she was clear that she was not sleeping on the street. She had people around her and a place to stay, but she did not have a home, she did not have an apartment, and she was not going to pretend otherwise just because the truth was uncomfortable. Peter Gunz came out publicly and said he had been sending her money every month and had even offered her a place in Dallas, and that her post made him look like he had not been doing anything to help. Amina said he had a point and that she probably should have mentioned him in her first video, because he really had been stepping up over the year and a half before all of this. At the same time, she was straight about the fact that even with his help, the money still was not enough to hold the apartment in LA. When the interview wrapped up, she was thinking about going back to Los Angeles, though no confirmed update on where things stand for her has come out as of mid-2026. Someone who had millions of people watching her life play out on TV ended up in a situation like this, and that alone tells you that a platform and a paycheck are two very different things. Azalia Banks. Azalia Banks has never been a simple person to talk about. She came out of New York in the early 2000s with 212, a record that made the whole industry stop and look, and she had real talent to back it up. She also has a long history of feuds and public drama that makes a lot of people want to write off anything serious that happens in her life as just more noise from her. But in the summer of 2024, something real happened that was worth paying attention to. A report came out on July 5th saying that Banks had been evicted from her rental home in Miami for not paying paying rent. She jumped on Instagram to say it was not true, that she had already left and moved somewhere else, and that the whole report was wrong. But court records that all hip-hop got their hands on showed that her landlord, a woman named Isis Clearo, had filed a motion for judgment against Banks on July 2nd, saying Banks had not paid what she owed and had not put any money into the court registry, which meant the landlord had the right to go after a default judgment to get her removed from the property. Banks fired back at all of it, saying the landlord was being aggressive and harassing her and that there was no actual court order telling her to leave. The paperwork, though, was already out there. The rent on that Miami property was somewhere around $6,800 to $6,900 a month, so you can understand how falling behind on that kind of number gets serious very quickly. This was not the first time Banks had found herself in a messy housing or money situation either, because that kind of trouble has followed her at different points throughout her career. Every time it comes up, it gets lost in whatever bigger controversy she is in the middle of at that moment, and people stop paying attention to the actual problem. She is still putting out music, and she is still very much active online, and as of 2026, there is no confirmed reporting that puts her in a homeless situation, but the financial instability that keeps showing up in her life is real, and the eviction filing was not something anyone made up. Court documents do not lie, and at some point the real story underneath all the noise deserves more attention than it gets. Fame does not pay your rent, and for women in hip-hop, the gap between being celebrated and being forgotten can close faster than anyone expects. If you want to keep seeing stories like this, you already know what to do. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.